سنار يا أرض الخير سلام، يا سيدة يا أم النصر. سنار يا أرض الخير سلام، يا سيدة يا أم النصر. يا ركزة الولد المسولب للبطان والعين جمر، الصوت دشر دم الحلال، فج اللحم كشف العظم. الصوت دشر دم الحلال، فج اللحم كشف العظم. والعز بات عند الحدود، العز بات ثبات عند العروض، ركزة همم. سنارنا سنارنا والتاريخ بدأ من هنا.
The impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan, the influence on modern poetry. Muhammad Abdالحي 1944-1989. Part 1. It is very welcome to you, dear audience, to our new series of episodes that have been dedicated to trace the impact of religion and Sufism on modern Sudanese poetry and poets. And our journey continues. And today we experience one of Sudan's greatest poets in modern time. In our presence, the celebrated and the prominent poet Muhammad Abdalhay Mahmoud. So Muhammad Abdalhay Mahmoud is considered one of the most distinguished Sudanese poets, whose influence left an enduring mark on the literary and poetic landscape of Sudan and the Arab world. His poetry is notable for its integration of Sudanese African, Arab and Islamic heritage, alongside influences from global literary movements. He is also regarded as one of the principal founders of the Forest and Desert movement, which represents one of Sudan's most significant literary currents. The early passing away of Abdalhay in August 1989 at the age of 45 came as a shock to the cultural community. He was widely known for his active presence as a poet, critic, historian, and professor of literature at the University of Khartoum. His biography informs that he was born in Khartoum into an intellectually inclined family. His material uncle, Sa'ad-Din Fawzi, was the first dean of the Faculty of Economics at the University of Khartoum in 1955. And his maternal grandfather was also a poet. His father was an architect, engineer. However, his family's movement across various regions of Sudan enriched his cultural and visual memory, a feature that would later become evident in his poetry, which he sought harmony between Arab culture and local Sudanese cultures, and employed rich natural and cultural symbolism.
والدار هناك سوت رواق لطلاب العلم، وفي الحجاز سوت رواق أدت قروش ودت هدم.
His education. Muhammad Abd received his early education in Sudanese schools and attended Hantub Secondary School, one of the country's most prominent institutions at that time. He later joined the Faculty of Arts at the University of Khartoum and graduating in the year 1967. So he joined the University of Khartoum in 1962 and graduated from Faculty of Arts in 1967. His biography informs that he firstly joined College of Medicine at the very same university, University of Khartoum, while he transferred and moved to College of Arts to satisfy his literary ambitions. So his education after obtaining his BA from University of Khartoum College of Arts, he pursued postgraduate studies in the United Kingdom, obtaining a master's degree in English literature from the University of Leeds in 1970. He earned his PhD from Oxford University in 1972 with a dissertation titled The English and American Impact on Arabic Romantic Poetry. It was noting that his dissertation had been translated into Arabic by his widow, Dr. Aisha Said. Dr. Aisha Musa Said. So following his graduation from the College of Arts, from Faculty of Arts, University of Khartoum, English Department, our poet Muhammad Abdalḥay served as a lecturer at the university and then later chairing both the English literature section and the translation section. In 1976, he was appointed Director General of the National Cultural Affairs Department during the reign of former President Ja'far al-Nimeri. Abdalḥay married the Sudanese academic and human rights advocate Aisha Musa Said, with whom he had 4 children. Aisha played a notable role in perceiving his legacy and translated his dissertation. She also served his PhD dissertation, as we have mentioned shortly. She also served on the board of trustees of the Tayyib Saleh International Award and held academic positions in several Saudi universities. Following the December 2019 revolution in Sudan, she was appointed a member to the Sovereign Council.
فج اللحم كشف العظم الصد شر دم الحلال فج اللحم كشف العظم والعز ثبات دلع الثبات عند الحدود والعز ثبات عند العروض ركزت همم.
Muhammad Abdalḥay major works and poetic legacy. Despite his short age in life, and that is, as we have stated, not exceeded more than 46, our celebrated, our genius, our prominent and outstanding poet Muhammad Abdalḥay has provided The literary circles in Sudan, as well as in the Arabic world or in the Arab world, we saw numerous poetic production and masterpieces. And in this concern, just I would like to say, based on the writers of his biography, that Muhammad Abd began publishing poetry during secondary school. So during his time in Hantub, in which also we stated that he received his secondary education at Hantub in central Sudan, our poet Muhammad Abd began writing poetry. Not only writing, but even publishing. And then, in this regard, his well-known poem, Sennar, appeared in his third year. And later wrote Bridegroom of Gallery, Aris al-Mayt. By the way, Aris al-Mayt is an elegy, has been dedicated to the narrator Ahmad al-Qurashi, the first narrator of October 1964 revolution. In 1963, he published written to Sennar, العودة إلى سنار, which gained wide acclaim and was featured in numerous Arab literary magazines, including Egyptian Poetry magazine and الشاعر magazine in Lebanon. This poem established his reputation across the Arab cultural sphere and became a foundational work within the forest and desert movement, alongside contributions from Yusuf Aidabi and Osman Bakr, Muhammad al-Makki, Ibrahim, and others. His poetry explores Sudan's historical roots and reflects philosophical meditations on identity, particularly the complexities faced by modern Sudanese intellectuals. He published collections include Return to Sennar, العودة إلى سنار, University of Khartoum, and that was in 1973. معلقة الإشارات, University of Khartoum, that is in 1977. السمندل يقني, University of Khartoum, published in 1977. The Last Rose Garden, حديقة الوردة الأخيرة, دار الثقافة, and that has been published in 1984. Collected Poems, الأعمال الشعرية الكاملة, Center for Sudanese Studies, Cairo, 1999. A verse play, Vision of the King, رؤيا الملك, and had been published in 1973, Khartoum. More contributions of our poet Muhammad Abdalhayy. He just would like to point out to his authoring أجراس القمر, Pillars of the Moon, and had been published in 1962. Masks of the Tribe, أغنية القبيلة, translations from African literature. His poetry blends traditional rhetorical forms with modern free verse marked by symbolic and mythical imagery. So he is also, as we have presented, our poet Salah Ahmed Ibrahim, and we found him that he had been influenced by mythology of the Greek We find also here our poet Muhammad Abd so furthermore influenced with mythical imagery. In his writing, he frequently drew on folklore, myth, and philosophical reflection, expressing the existential challenges of the modern intellectual. Mystical Sufi overtones are visible in several of his works, including معلقة الإشارات, God in the Time of Violence, written to Sennar. So, the audience, this is just part of the literary contribution of our celebrated poet Muhammad Abdalhay. So, in addition to these poetic writings, in fact, he has his own contribution and sharing, as well as participation in literary forums, in literary symposiums. In addition to his career, they are going to share together that he works as a lecturer at University of Khartoum. He started from 1967 and till his passing away in 1989.
سنار يا أرض الخير سلام، يا سيدة يا أم النصر. سنار يا أرض الخير سلام.
Career and professional life. Muhammad Abdalhay joined the University of Khartoum as a teaching assistant in 1967 and later became a professor of comparative and English literature. He also produced radio programs including Masks of the Tribe and published translations and studies in Sudanese and Arab journals such as Royal Am and Doha. He translated poems by several prominent writers including T.S. Eliot and author studies such as Vision and Words. A critical analysis of Tijani Yusuf Bashir poetry. He founded the literary magazine Al-Adab at the University of Khartoum and served as its first editor-in-chief.
عند العروض ركزة همم.
His illness and passing away. In 1980, Muhammad Abdalhay suffered a stroke that severely affected his memory and linguistic abilities, including Arabic. After undergoing heart surgery in London, he gradually regained his ability to read and write and returned to academic life. So he returned to University of Khartoum once again to resume his career as a teacher of comparative literature. And in fact, he backed again and started from the beginning, as his biography informs. That is following his first experience with the stroke. So during his illness and following his return from London after the successful heart surgery, during his illness he became notably more spiritual and religious. In 1987, he suffered for the second time another stroke in the United Kingdom, resulting in paralysis. So he passed away on 23rd of August 1989 at the age of 46.
من الماسمع بالسلطان وسطنا سنارنا سنارنا.
Religious and Sufi influence. In this part of our documentary, which in fact is a first encounter, is our first encounter with our celebrated Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy, our celebrated poet. He just would like, based on the writers of his biography, to seek behind his influence with Sufism and religion before taking an example, which in fact serve as a practical side of our presentations that already we have started with so numerous Sudanese modern poets, in which together we experience their influence, their impact with the language of religion and with the language of tasawwuf. So Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy writings reveal a profound spiritual and mystical inclination rather than material concerns. Sufi undertones are evident in works such as معلقة الإشارات. Moreover, God in the time of violence, and finally returned to Sennar. As he stated, and I would like to quote Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy words. As he stated, he said, I believe I differ from many of my contemporaries in Sudan and in the Arab world. Through my deep conviction in the spiritual essence of human existence and in my belief that this essence reaches its highest purity and beauty. Meanwhile, critics know that Abdul-Hayy's work uniquely integrates Sufi depth with modernist poetic expression. His poem, Return to Sennar, remains a cornerstone for understanding Sudanese Arab identity. According to literary scholars, he was among the pioneers of the forest and desert movement, which sought to reconcile Arab and African elements of identity and significantly contributed to the modernization of Arabic poetry in Sudan. About himself, speaking about the influence of tasawwuf as well as of religion in his writings, he said, the origins of my thoughts are in al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan revelation of the renowned Qutb, the Sufi philosopher Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, as well as of Ikhwan al-Safa, epistles of the Brethren Purity. It is not there in the English poetry. So as you listen, dear audience, that our poet Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy, and as we have presented shortly in his biography, that he not only influenced with literary movements of European poetic or poets or poetic writing, or yes, poetic writings, we found him that he is so influenced and impacted by the writing of Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, notably his Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan revelation, in addition to that of Ikhwan al-Safa, epistles of the Brethren of Purity. So he informed that their handling to issues having to do with mysticism was not there in his reading to European poetic production or European poets. The audience, I would like to point out that to present the biography of our renowned poet Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy, just I depend on the following sources: Muhammad Najib, Muhammad Ali, his article محمد عبد الحي شاعر بين الغابة والصحراء published article in الجزيرة.net 28 of April 2014. Another article published in the website القيادي.com entitled الشاعر محمد عبد الحي شاعر الهوية والجسور في السودان. Another article written by محفوظ بشرى محمد عبد الحي الليلة يستقبلني أهلي published article on العربي الجديد 23 of August 2014. In addition to Emmanuel K. and Henry Louis Gates, Dictionary of African Biography, Volume 1, Oxford University Press, 2011, page 38. In addition to my authoring book, The Impact of Sufism on Arts, Abdul Abdullah Saleh, 2024, by المصورات for publishing and distribution, Cairo. The audience, I would like to reminding you that I'm presenting the impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan, with a special focus on the influence on modern poetry. And in our presence today, Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy, in our first encounter with him. So just here we have reached to taking a sample out of his poetic production, in which we would like to trace the influence of the religious as well as Sufi language. And in our first encounter with him, we would like to share the return to Sennar. So his poem, The Return to Sennar, is the focus of our first encounter with him, taken as an example, as I told, to point out to what extent that he is influenced with the language of Tasawwuf and language of religion. Let us go. His poem, Return to Sennar, 1963, is considered the clearest and most comprehensive expression of the forest and desert school, for it takes Sennar, or the Black Sultanate, 1504-1821, as a model and symbol of Sudanese Afro-Arab identity. This identity was proposed as an alternative to the tension in the 1960s between advocates of Arabism and advocates of Africanism. The Sultanate of Sennar was formed through the union of Arab tribes in the north and Black African tribes in the south. Arab tribes denote the desert, while Black African tribe denotes the forest, creating a strong state whose center lay in central Sudan. That is Sennar. However, the forest and desert literary movement, did not satisfy those who viewed it as diminishing the role of Islam and Arab identity in Sudan, nor those who consider it a covertly pro-Arab trend. Be that as it may, the work produced by the poets of this movement, Muhammad Abdalhayy, Nur Usman Bakr, Muhammad Al-Makki Ibrahim, remain among the most distinguished milestones in the development of Sudanese poetry. Yet, the voice of Abdalhayy's poem, Return to Sennar, stands out the most, even though he wrote it at the age of 18.
وتدعو من ظلمات الجبل الصامت والأحراج حراس اللغة المملكة الزرقاء. ذلك يخطر في جد الفهد، وهذا يسطع في قمصان الماء. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، أرواح جدودي تخرج من فضة أحلام النهر ومن ليل الأسماء، تتقمص أجساد الأطفال، تنفخ في رئة المداح وتضرب بالساعد عبر ذراع الطبال. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، أهدوني مسبحة من أسنان الموتى، إبريقا جمجمة ومصلى من جلد الجاموس، رمزا يلمع بين النخلة والأبنوس، لغة تطلع مثل الرمح من جسد الأرض وعبر سماء الجرح. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي.
The poem written to Sennar consists of 5 chants: the sea, the city, the night, the dream, and the morning. In them, he laid the foundation for the concept of returning from an alienation of identity to the earliest successful model of the blending of Sudan cultural and ethnic components. So as you listen, the audience, this masterpiece, the Return to Sennar, consists of 5 chants. And just what I would like to share is the part that directly reflect and at the same time stand as the reflection to the influence of our poet with the language of Sufism, with the language of religion. And here just I would like to share his lines in Arabic first and then going to its English version. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، أهدوني مسبحة من أسنان الموتى، إبريقا جمجمة مصلاة من جلد الناموس، رمزا يلمع بين النخلة والأبنوس، لغة تطلع مثل الرمح من جسد الأرض وعبر سماء الجرح. So this is the lines, Arabic lines. While the English translated version of the Oud written to Sennar, I would like to quote it from Muhammad Abd. So Muhammad Abd is the translator of this very long poem, and what I would like to share is just the lines that I have read in Arabic. Let us go. Tonight, my people welcome me. They gave me a rosary made of the teeth of the dead, a skull jug of buffalo skin prayer mat, a symbol that shines between palm and ebony tree, a language that rises like a spear. The audience, in fact, the translator is Sir Nagar, which share Muhammad Abd the very same page, which in fact is a website entitled Safeguarding Sudan's Living Heritage.
لبنا في ضريع لا بنقطيع لا بنجديع راضعين نحنا من أمنا سنارنا سنارنا والتاريخ بدا من هنا من الماء سمع بالسلطنة سنارنا سنارنا
استقبلني أهلي. So the poem opens the theme with a return to his roots. The poet returned to his roots, as if he is visiting his original homeland or his spiritual authority. My people here are not merely family members, but everything that represents belonging, the land, heritage, and ancestors. Moreover, the opening line establishes a moment of return, not merely physical, but spiritual and cultural. The speaker is being received by his people, a phrase that includes ancestors, tradition, and ancestral memory. The scene resembles an initiation or a rite of passage, and the returning figure is greeted with symbolic objects that carry deep cultural resonance. أهدوني مسبحة من أسنان الموتى إبريقا جمجمة. They gifted me a rosary made of the teeth of the dead. In fact, the rosary symbolizes spirituality, but being made from the teeth of the dead makes it a fusion of worship and death, of tenacity and terror. It signals the heavy legacy we carry from the past, the sacrifices of ancestors, their pains, and the wounds of history. The rosary is a symbol of prayer and spiritual discipline, yet its construction from the teeth of the dead fuses devotion with morality, with mortality. This creates a stark juxtaposition. مصلاة من جلد الناموس, skill jug, and a prayer mat made of buffalo skin. All the gifts are made of raw materials linked to life, death, and nature. The prayer mat of buffalo skin points to a primal spirituality connected to the original inhabitants of the land and to the animals' significance in early human life, with a special reference to Sudan context. So as you listen and as you follow, أهدوني مسبحة مصلاة من جلد الناموس. So مسبحة, that is rosary, and rosary is a sign, indicates Sufism. And here just the fact states that Sufis, to their credit, the re-establishment and the consolidation of Islam in the country. And it has been stated that the earlier disseminators of Islam in the country are the Sufis. And the symbol always used to be stand as mark to them is the rosary. Moreover, muslat, that is prayer mat, indication to purity, indication to abiding with the teaching of the religion. And furthermore, here we find these two symbols, that is the symbol of rosary and the symbol of the mat. And the mat itself to Sufis, it indicates the caliphate. That is because one of the things that the new Khalifa in any Sufi tariqa, one of the things that used to be handed to him is the rosary and the mat, and indicate the inheritance and the legacy of the forefather.
ومرة تنأى تغوص في الضباب والبخار، تسقط مثل الثمر الناضج في الصمت الكثيف بين حد الحلم الموحش وابتداء الانتظار. وارتفعت من عتمة الأرض طيور النار، وها هي الآن جذوع الشجر الحي، لحم الأرض والأزهار. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، الليلة يستقبلني. خيل تحجل في دائرة النار وترقص في الأجراس، وفي الديباج امرأة تفتح باب النهر وتدعو من ظلمات الجبل الصامت والأحراج حراس اللغة المملكة الزرقاء. ذلك يخطر في جلد الأسد، ذلك يخطر في جلد الفهد، وهذا يسطع في قمصان الماء. الليلة يستقبلني أهلي، الليلة يستقبلني أهلي. أرواح جدودي تخرج من فضة أحلام النار، ومن ليل الأسماء تتقمص أجساد الأطفال، تنفخ في رئة المداح، تضرب بالساعد عبر ذراع الطبال. أهدوا لي مسبحة من أسنان الموتى، إبريقا جمجمة، ومصلى من جلد الجاموس، رمزا يلمع بين النخلة والأبنوس، لغة تطلع مثل الرمح من جسد الأرض عبر سماء الجرح.
Symbol shining between the palm tree and the ebony. So the palm tree symbolizes the Arabs and the East, while ebony symbolizes Africa and its deep black essence. Thus, the symbol shining between them represents the poet's hybrid identity, Arab and African, rooted both in the desert and the forest. By this, I came to the end of our first encounter with our celebrated poet Muhammad Abd Al-Hayy, in our first encounter with him. So, following my presentation to his biography, the audience, I finished and I concluded the episode with having a sample of his influence with the language of religion, with the languages in Tasawwuf, which in fact it came as a part of his masterpiece written to Sennar. So till seeing you in our second episode with him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أنا منكم تائه عاد يغني بلسان ويصلي بلسان. أنا منكم جرحكم جرحي، قوسي قوسكم، وثني مجد الأرض، وصوفي ضرير مجد الرؤيا ونيران الإله. افتحوا للعائد الليلة أبواب المدينة، افتحوا الليلة للعائد أبواب المدينة، افتحوا الليلة أبواب المدينة. ودخلت حافيا منكفئا عاريا في جبة مهترئة، وعبرت في الظلام وانزويت في دياجير الكلام. ونمت كما ينام في الحصى المبلول طفل الماء، والطير في أعشاشه، والسمك الصغير في أنهاره. وفي أغصانها الثمار، والنجوم في مشيمة السماء.
شكرا، وشكرا على التحفة التي